and the history of the human race, you realize that very quickly that things are not as they seem. And you realize that everything is related and connected. And you've seen some wonderful speakers and scientists and researchers that have spoken about this thing called consciousness and all these other wonderful areas of research in quantum physics and metaphysics and the leading technologies and so forth. And what I found when I started researching this is that no matter where you go and what you research, everything in the end becomes connected through this weird, twisted road of unknown stuff. And the more you research, the more you realize that there's stuff that we just really don't quite understand. And I'm working with some brilliant minds in Johannesburg that are opening up a whole new world of reality and understanding. And when I spoke to David Wilcock yesterday evening, he said to me, God, there's so much information in so little time, and I know exactly how he feels. And to support the statement that history of our planet is a lot stranger than most people realize, as I'll show you this, I hope can you see that? That's a footprint. Okay, I'm standing next to a footprint. There's a foot. Beautiful 5 toes, and my hand up there is resting on what would normally be pulled up by your toes if you step into mud. Now, when you show this to geologists, it sends shivers up their spine because if they remember what they were taught at university, they all know instantly that whoever walked there was rather large, and that must have happened between 200 million and 3 billion years ago, because that's how old this sedimentary rock is. Very quickly, remind us all, you've heard this from many speakers already, we live in an electromagnetic universe where everything spins and vibrates, and that is really the nature of our perceived reality. If it doesn't spin or vibrate, it cannot be part of this reality that we call the electromagnetic universe. From subatomic particles and solar systems and the entire galaxy, everything seems to spin and vibrate, and that allows it to be present in this perceived reality of ours. And it gets a lot stranger when you start getting into the subatomic structure of things and the nature of reality and so forth. But we're not going to go into that now, because that will take us away from the subject matter, which is really the origins of humankind. And I forgot to mention right up front is irrespective of what we've heard or what we've absorbed over the last 2 days, what I call the 3 questions that make up the great human puzzle: who are we, where do we come from, and why are we here? Those still remain really largely unanswered. And there are lots of theories and wonderful bits of evidence and clues that we find that keep leading us closer to what I believe is finally finding some solace and understanding of who we are, where we come from, and why we're here. Because I believe it's crucial to be able to answer those 3 very simple questions, because how could we possibly know where we are heading as a species if we can't answer those 3 fundamental questions? The electromagnetic universe gets presented like this, with this very lovely squiggle at the top there. It goes from long waves on the left, and then it ends up in extremely high waves on the right. And what that really tells us is that everything vibrates at a specific frequency. And once you know the frequency at which something vibrates, you can manipulate it and you can affect it with a frequency, and you can affect it either positively or negatively. But there's a very, very interesting thing. Again, this is a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional event. So what you got to do is actually take this thing and turn it sideways to really understand what's going on. And if you turn it sideways, you suddenly realize that you're looking at a spiral. It starts very tightly woven, and it spirals bigger and bigger and bigger. And that just to take a slightly different perspective on what it is that we're looking at. The important thing to notice here is that from the very long waves, the cosmic waves on the left there, to the very, very high pico waves and so forth on the right, the only part of this spectrum that we can appreciate right now, or what we think we can appreciate, is this thing called visible light, which is here, which really between 400 and 700 nanometers, that thin little sliver of this electromagnetic spectrum. And as far as we're concerned, that's the only thing we can see. But that's not necessarily true, because everything there exists and everything here exists, but this is where the macho guys will say, well, if I can't see it and I can't touch it, it doesn't exist. You say, okay, well, if that's what you believe, then let me say to you that you must be a really big... And hopefully they get the message, right?